Aline, you have muted yourself rather than unmuted yourself.
Mute. Am I unmuted now? Can everyone hear me? All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. This is our first meeting of our new year of programs, I suppose, for the Herb Society. And we have as our presenter today, Flint Fancy, who is going to be talking to us about fall gardening. But before we get into that, I would like to introduce Norris. We have several guests and visitors today and new members possibly. And Norris is going to handle that for us. So Norris, if you could ask you to unmute and you tell us what's up with that.
Okay. Actually, we have one guest and then we have two new members. So our new members are Michaela Castles, and I didn't notice if she was here today.
I didn't see her.
Okay, but we also have Mona McClay, and she is here. There she is. Hello. And we usually ask how you came to know about the Herb Society and what your interests are, that kind of thing. Is there anything you can share about yourself or?
Sure. Yeah, hi, I'm super excited to be here and meet you all today. I learned about the Herb Society through, I think it was the Zilker Botanical Garden website.
Oh, okay.
And I just moved to Austin. I got a job over at UT and I grew up gardening, but in a very different climate in Wisconsin and Chicago. So yeah. I feel like I'm coming in, I'm like, I used to know what I was doing and now I don't know anything. So I've been kind of, doing a little gardening in my backyard here, which has been good and a learning experience already. So I'm really excited to kind of learn from you all about how to garden down here in Central Texas, and excited to kind of learn more about herbs and everything. So.
Well, great. I know we're in the perfect place and we're happy to have you join us. And this will be a really good topic for you to start off on. So, so welcome. And then our guest is Claudette. Is it Parr or Muller or Mueller or Muller? She contacted us and I'm not sure. Do I see you, Claudette? Ah, there you are. Yes. How did you happen to find us?
So the same way as lady that just spoke, Michaela, or no? Yeah. I was, I'm a member of the Zilker Botanical Garden and I love spending time there. And I just happened to see a couple of volunteers that were clipping some flowers and stuff. And I asked and they gave me the website. I just retired from the Texas Education Agency from the state. And I am looking into where I want to spend my time. And I love outdoors and I love gardening. I've had gardens before here in Texas because I've lived in Texas for 30 some years. And yeah, it's not easy growing food in Texas, but I would just like to learn because I've never formally spent time learning about it. It's just been sort of like trial and error, see what works, getting familiar with all the places that sell all the gardening clubs that are around here. I used to live in Pflugerville and I belonged to that group for a little while, and just want to learn more about it, and I would love to spend time helping as well.
That would be great. And we do have a lot of very knowledgeable members in a variety of areas. So I hope you haven't become a member yet, but we'll talk to you about that too. And so welcome. And that, oh, and then the final comment is just thanks to all who did renew. I am seeing a couple people asking, oh, why is there a meeting today? And they probably haven't renewed. So spread the word. We'll keep, a lot of people just don't get around to it for whatever reason. So there'll be more of us, I'm sure, by next month, since people will realize they didn't make the deadline and whatnot. So anyway, that's all from membership for now.
Thank you, Norris. I'd like to introduce our speaker shortly, but at first I wanted to thank Norris. She is so good about sending out that newsletter every month. And as I was mentioning before the meeting started, I use that as my crib sheet, my cliff notes for introducing our speakers. It's too funny. I was telling Flint, I said, here in the Herb Society, we believe in doing things in a complicated way. I obtain information from our prospective speakers. I send that information to Norris. Norris puts it in the newsletter and sends it back. And then I use her newsletter as our introduction to the speakers. And so we thank her. It's always a wonderful, wonderful piece of information that we get. All right, so time for our presentation, the be all and end all of our meetings as always. Today, we're very pleased to introduce a speaker that I haven't heard before, and her name is Flint Fancy. Flint is the owner and operator, co-owner and operator with a man named Jay Beard. Flint deals with the medicinals part of it, and Jay deals with the organic growing part of things. And together they co-own and operate Lone Star Medicinals and Lone Star Nursery out of Manor, Texas. Flint moved here back in 1994, I think she said, and from South Dakota. So you want to talk about a new growing area, Claudette. You've got one that's even further than Wisconsin. And she started out just with her little program was called, hang on just a second, The Age of Flint Apothecary. And she is a self-taught herbalist who solved some medical and health problems that she had by learning more about non-traditional and Chinese medicine and herbal medicine. And it was 1999 that she came here from South Dakota. This Age of Flint Apothecary, she teamed up with Jay Beard and his nursery in 2006, and they started selling at farmers markets. They turned to wholesale marketing to area nurseries, but now they've taken a direct to consumer grow and delivery operation that is the combination of Lone Star Medicinals and Lone Star Nursery. And they will deliver free with a minimum of a $30 order. They grow their own organic plants and deliver them free to customers within a 45-mile radius from Manor. So this is an option that people might well be interested in taking advantage of. Flint will have additional contact information at the end of her presentation, but this is also a recorded meeting. And of course, that information is in the newsletter as well. So let's see. That's about all we have to say about Flint. The rest of it is what Flint is going to tell us. Her presentation today is called Fall Into Your Garden. And it's a combination of what plants we can begin to grow in this area, how to harvest seeds from the plants that we have had, save them when it's time to replant them. A lot of things together about that for our gardens this time of year, but also the medicinal part of it and the herbal information that she has to share with us. So Flint, let me see where you are, my dear. Where did you go? Oh, look, we've got Michaela Castles. Let me enter her. Here's Flint. Flint, let me ask you to unmute yourself, my dear. You can begin your presentation whenever you're ready. I'm going to give Flint a 5-minute notice when she's reaching the end of our time limit. So, however, if she's very interesting, we're gonna just let her keep going. So, Karen is freaking out right now by my saying that.
Please, I don't want to be talking this whole time. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
and for those of you who want to change your view at the top of the screen, you're currently in gallery view, or at least I've got you in gallery view. The top right, you can change to the speaker view, and that way you can see Flint, and there's even a full screen view of her. So that when she holds things up for us to look at, you'll be able to see them better that way. Okay, take it away, Flint.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, dear.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be here. Thanks to Aline and the Austin Herb Society for asking me to join. Like she said, my name's Flint. I currently reside in Eastern Travis County, known as Manor, Texas. I live on an acreage with 3 of my 5 kids. I'm 46 years old. I have a husband, 4 dogs, a cat, lots of pigs, and of course, wild creatures on our acreage. So on this acreage, I co-own and operate Lone Star Nursery. Like Aline said, we used to be a wholesale grower, but we kind of did a pivot recently, I guess you could say March of 2020, and now we deliver direct to your door. When I started my journey as an herbalist almost 25 years ago, I had this harebrained idea that I would eventually grow everything that I formulated. Well, I love browsing apothecaries and smelling the inside of herbal apothecaries. I would daydream about dozens of jars in my home, filled to the brim with dried medicinals. Just, you know, the whole idea of it was a dream. But as I was preparing for this presentation, I realized it was a reality, much to my husband's chagrin, I'm sure, because there's just plants and dried plants all over my house. So let's see here. Since we're on the cusp of autumn, I want to talk about plants that we have growing around us, plants that are useful for us, plants that you've had in your garden, or plants that we see in nature. I mean, anyone can walk into an herb shop and pick up plants, but I feel that growing them ourselves it's more sustainable and mostly convenient. I mean, we kill plants all the time, right? But still, it's mostly convenient to be able to learn from the beginning of the plant. I'd like to start by talking about a relatively common herb, which I'm sure you're seeing growing around. If I can find what I did with that guy. Let's see. I want to talk about goldenrod. Here's goldenrod right here. Come here. Hold on. Okay. So goldenrod, sorry about that, guys. Didn't mean to give you a view of my bottom. Goldenrod is an anti-inflammatory as well as a diuretic. Interestingly enough, this plant thrives in roadside ditches, often thought of as a weed. Well, we all know that weeds are really, it's just a term for probably a useful plant. Our friend goldenrod is a member of the sunflower family, not to be confused with ragweed, which sometimes it is. It's an excellent native to grow and promote a healthy bee population. So that's one thing awesome about goldenrod. Oh, excuse me. The flowers and the leaves are the medicinal portions. This is the Solidago Rabula, which I found growing next to my driveway. So 2 things when you're wildcrafting, just to touch on. 1, make sure you've got the right plant. 2, only harvest what you need, ensuring that the plant can survive and multiply for years to come. So these will go to seed generally around the equinox, the autumn equinox. I haven't personally gathered seeds for these because we do a lot of, why are you laughing, Aline? You look to be laughing. So I haven't personally gathered seeds on these. Usually we take cuttings for stuff like this. So, but if you want to, you can just watch for the flowers to drop to flowers, and then you collect the seeds from this portion, which I can show you more on later because I actually have some of these in a bag. So in identifying the Solidago Rabula, it's important to keep in mind that there are 150 varieties of goldenrod. We've deduced that what's growing around us is the Solidago rugosa, or the Western rough goldenrod. So these are the plants that I've trimmed. So what I love about when I see goldenrod is it kind of reminds me that we are heading into the fall, that we are going to be harvesting plants and seeing plants that are probably going to coincide with ailments that are coming with the winter. This is an anti-inflammatory, so we can use it for mouth and throat afflictions, sore throat, irritations from cough and mucus. You can make a tincture or a tea, which is nice to gargle with. Putting some tea in a spray bottle and storing in your refrigerator for a sore throat is actually cooling and healing. So if you know where you can get some goldenrod or you're growing some goldenrod, it's excellent for that type of affliction. Or you can prepare a honey-based remedy, which is something that I wanted to show you here. I brought my sterilized mason jar, and I'm just going to take some of this goldenrod here, and we're just going to kind of sheath it into the jar. And eventually I will remove all of these pieces, put this into the jar, and I'm going to show you how to make a honey out of these, which could be turned into an oximal. But that's just something that we'll be processing over the next few herbs that I talk about. So as I'm taking the leaves off of this, I'll be moving on to the next herb, which is a very lovely plant that has history with me. Where did she go? Oh, here she is. This is Culinary Sage. Well, it's kind of boring, right? It's just Culinary Sage. But the thing about this plant is I rescued this plant from near death outside of our greenhouses. It was in a gallon pot. I don't know if somebody left it there or if it was a misdelivery or what, but it was just looking shabby. And so I brought it up to the house and then I let it get even worse for about a week and a half. But I finally decided, okay, I'm going to deadhead this plant. I'm going to plant it in a pot, I'm going to put some top dress fertilizer on it, and I'm going to let it do its thing. And this is probably the 5th generation of this plant in the last year. It survived the freeze. And I've used it many, many times to make all kinds of different things. I use it dried for an air purifier. I like to use it, in this different, of course, culinary meats and rubs and things like that. But also, if we were to take pieces of the fresh herb, this is also going to go into our little honey remedy that's going to be for our throat. So I'm going to be adding some of these in here. So this actual variety is called, it's Salvia officinalis, but it's called Extracta. And it's named that because of its high oil content. And so this is preferred by cooks and chefs and of course people making essential oils. I'd love to have a patch of this big enough to put in my oil distiller and make an essential oil one day, but I'll just settle for this guy because I think it's going to come again. And since we're talking about planting, you can plant these pretty much any time of year, especially if you're going to be growing them inside. Its cousin, the clary sage, actually can overwinter and be hardy throughout the winter. This is a surprising plant for me to come back. So I will probably pull this inside the house. I have never seen this plant go to flower or seed. I do a lot of cuttings from it, so I'll be looking out for that. If anybody's ever seen a culinary sage bloom, I would love to hear about it. But for now, that is something that we can add to our honey-based formula. Let's see here. I'm sorry, I'm just grabbing the stem. Okay, so moving along to another culinary herb, which I've got right over here in this funny looking bag, is just Greek oregano. And I didn't grow any Greek oregano this year, but I managed to harvest a whole lot of it last summer. So the thing about Greek oregano is all oreganos are antiviral. I mean, we use it in cooking and all that, which is great. But oregano has so much research right now behind it and the powerful anti-inflammatory and antiviral uses of oregano. So another thing that I find super awesome about growing my own herbs is that oregano is really easy. It's something that most people have on hand, and most people don't know that you can actually use it as a medicine. Oregano, I have seen grow on my porch throughout the winter. In fact, this oregano plant overwintered during the big storm, and I was looking at it and I was thinking, wow, I can't believe it survived. It looks so beautiful. And as soon as I said that, it just died. So I was happy to be able to get some of this ahead of time. So funny story, once upon a time, I used to perform with a traveling circus style freak show. And among the beautiful human anomalies, we also had some pretty great clowns. And one of these clowns, whose name was Low Rent the Clown, he was, a political clown. He had an act where he tried to promote this product called pizza perfume. And all this consisted of was oregano and water in a spray bottle. And that's something that it definitely smelled like pizza, but it really didn't do anything except for make his act really silly. So, but what you want to do is take about a tablespoon of this, and anything I'm talking about here, you can email me later for recipes. I don't have recipe cards to show you, but I'll gladly share the information. It is just 1 tablespoon of oregano with a cup of hot water. You can either drink that as a tea, or you can strain it out and put it in your jar, which I've lost here. Here we go. Put it in your jar and refrigerate it, and then you can use that as a throat spray. Also, this can be added into our jar that we have going here with the goldenrod and the sage. We're going to put some oregano in there too. So the thing about the Greek oregano, let's see here. So if you're not familiar with research that has been done on oregano in the last, 2 to 10 years, has been evolving ever so rapidly as we get new viruses and mutating viruses. I've heard of a lot of people using oregano to combat the inflammation and the pain that they experience from cold and flu symptoms and things like that. Basically, the essential oil, it can inhibit the viruses. So when you take oregano, your body sends message to your body. There's a compound in there called carvacrol, and it has been found to be more effective against some viruses individually, while essential oil of the oregano has been found to be more acutely effective against respiratory viruses. So that is something that I recommend always growing oregano, because you never know when you got to make a pizza. You never know when you need to help your sore throat. It has trace analgesic effects also, which can be helpful to ease the discomfort of body aches that accompany flu and other viruses. So like I said, 1 tablespoon and some water, and transfer to a bottle or drink the tea. Boom. This is another one of the great plants that is somewhat evergreen, and with proper care, it can be overwintered with a mix of indoor and outdoor. I personally never had an oregano plant survive my clutches long enough to see some flowers. I kill a lot of oregano, but I also plant a lot of oregano. But once your oregano begins to flower, was what we refer to as bolting. You can let these flower and dry in the pot, or you can cut them and dry on a rack or a paper bag. Once flowers have completely dried, shake the flower heads in a bag to free any of the seeds still in the flowers. Separate the seed from the chaff, label and store. You can put these in a cool place in a container that's dry. Oregano seeds are usually viable for about 3 to 5 years, but it's always good to try to get those to germinate in the first year. But speaking of seeds, here, one of my all-time favorites, Hibiscus Sabdarifa. Can we see this? Oh, where's my camera? It's over here. All right, so this is Hibiscus Sabdarifa. What is one of the things that our doctors always tell us, or anyone that cares about us? What do you need when you're trying to combat a cold? Vitamin C, right? Vitamin C is one of the things they say, take the vitamin C. Well, this is packed with vitamin C. Unlike your ornamental or dinner plate hibiscus, this is also called the roselle hibiscus. This is the lovely red tea that you will find served in cafes, iced, or taquerias, sometimes sweetened, sometimes brewed with mint. This delicious beverage is made from the calyx, which is this little red piece here. I'm not seeing where my camera is. My camera is on this side. Okay. So this little red piece, which I'm having a hard time popping off here, but I do have a whole jar full that I've started, and that's all hibiscus that I'm actually harvesting this. We're partnering up with a few breweries to do some pop-ups, and they're making a hibiscus beer, which I'm not a beer drinker, but it's very interesting that they're going to be using some of our hibiscus for that. So you can make the tea. We can also take this and add this into our fancy little jar here that we got going, because we're going to make a, so far we've got antiviral, we've got vitamin C, we've got anti-inflammatory, and all this is going to make a honey that we can use as a syrup for cough. Let's see here. So the spent flower blossom is what we are harvesting with this. I could talk a lot about this because my two youngest kids actually go to a school where they have an eco wellness class, and every year the eco wellness teacher buys a whole bunch of hibiscus from us because they teach the kids how to grow it from seed and how to make, popsicles and a lot of fun stuff. So this is a really great herb for kids alike because it's so much fun. And I meant to get some water to show you how red it becomes. It's almost instantly red when you put it into hot water for tea. But not only is it pretty from plant to harvest, but like I said, it's loaded with vitamin C and antioxidants. So about antioxidants, if just to be brief about, they reduce the risk of many diseases, including heart disease and certain cancers. Antioxidants scavenge free radicals from the body, from the cells, and to prevent or reduce the damage caused by oxidation, which is just a big word for, foreign chemicals in our body, heavy metals. The protective effect of antioxidants is something that continues to be studied, but if you hear antioxidant or you see like if your green tea is antioxidant, you're definitely doing your body a favor by having something that claims to be antioxidant, something that's always to look for on labels. Now I mentioned the seed because this plant is a prolific seed giver. It never ceases to amaze me. I grow about 1 to 3 4-inch size plants of this every year. And at least one of them becomes a beast, 6 feet wide, 6 feet tall. And it's right now is when you should be seeing this bloom, from now into as late as early October. So this is a member of the mallow family. It blooms probably, I've seen my plants give 50 to 100 blooms a day, the big giant sprawling ones. Looking very similar to an okra blossom. The flowers are gorgeous. And once the bloom closes, this is when we go forth and collect the calyx, the leaf, and the seed. I have all 3 here to show you. The seed might be able to, there's probably 1,000 seeds in here. Oh, they're spilling all over my lap. It's like the size of a, it looks kind of like a kidney. Here we go. That is the Hibiscus Sabdarifa. I have tons of these too, so if anybody wants some. We've got a bazillion, but the thing about this, like I like to mention, is besides vitamin C and antioxidant, is just how much you can get from one 4-inch plant is unbelievable. And I will always and forever grow the hibiscus. Now this right here is a part of hibiscus that people might not think to use, but it is the leaf. And I took as much leaf off of the plant as I could last time. And so we've got all of this lovely dry leaf, and it's very effervescent, lemony scented. So this is mostly for culinary. Now, if you have a whole bunch of fresh, I've actually made a sag paneer from this, which is an Indian dish, which usually with spinach or mustard greens, but sag paneer made from hibiscus greens, something to behold. And if you ever are cooking and it calls for lemon or lime, you can throw a bit of this in there and you pretty much get the same effect. So I have way too much of this. So it's not something I use a whole lot, but when you've got it fresh, it's something to consider for cooking. This brings us to another herbal medicinal I have growing and going to seed in my garden, and that's holy basil. Holy moly on this holy basil. This guy, woo! This was, I wish you could smell it from here because holy basil is incredible. I always say it smells like bubble gum, but it's so much more than that. So this was a 4-inch plant that I also rescued from the clutches of death down at the nursery. We have a lot of that going around because, you know, plant nurseries, there's lots and lots of life, but sadly lots of deaths too when it comes to the plants. And as you can see, these are already going to seed. So we've got the flower here going to seed. And if it were to be, you know, oops, I just dropped a whole bunch of seeds. If it were to be spring or summer, we would probably pinch those flowers off so that the plant could concentrate on the roots and the leaf. But this is the time that we're going to take these off and we're going to hang them to dry. So what I'll probably do, because this plant jumped from one pot to another pot and it's underneath my porch. It's just crazy. So what I'll probably do is just cut the roots off the one in the pot and let the rest in the ground go. I'm not exactly sure. But since it's self-seeded and survived the winter, I think I'm going to go ahead and let it just go under the porch because I have been so surprised at the things that have come back every year and from the winter through winter months. I don't know if our climate is changing or if I'm just becoming a better gardener, but I doubt that it's the latter because I'm constantly learning new things. So this herb is used for strengthening the endocrine system. And the endocrine system, just briefly, is, you know, kind of the messenger system in our body that tells us what basically is our hormone regulator. So I'm trying to take this down, but it's not really wanting to come. Here's my little sprig I took of this. So what you want to do with, I will just take one of these every day when I pop off my porch and I'll just eat it. And, you know, herbalists, we eat just about any herb, right? Most people be like, ugh, and this is pretty pungent, I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't expecting it to sting like that, or as my kids say, oh, it's too spicy. So tea, tincture, or raw leaf, the herb is a great one to have growing in the garden. For anyone who's feeling taxed emotionally and physically, this is an excellent herb. It'll subtly, I should say, shift your overall well-being. It's a sacred herb in Ayurveda. This one in particular is called Vana. Now there's 3 types, Vana, Krishna, and someone please tell me the third that I can't think of. But anyway, I have so much of this that I'm gonna actually make a holy basil liqueur out of it. And I'll be happy to share that recipe as well. It's very bitter like this, but when you add it to make a tea, it is so delicious. So coming to the seed, it's just as easy to see how much this plant produces. Seeds, like any basil, like this started to bolt, and I'm letting it bolt because it's just going to go ahead and transplant itself. And I feel really abundant in the holy basil. In India, they plant it right next to their doors. I have a giant one next to mine. It's supposed to be a home blessing, so that's also a very nice thing. And it is a very forgiving and giving plant. Let's see, I have some notes here. See, I'm totally cheating you guys. So what have I done with my jar of, I wasn't going to get away with not talking about elderberry, right? Because elderberry is one of the key medicinal plants for cold and flu season. And we grow several varieties, and I've lost my guy. Where are you? No, that's not you. Hold up. There's got to be one here somewhere. Anyway, I brought an elderberry tree, but she's hiding from me right now. So these elderberries are something that you will find growing in our region. When we first discovered what I called a giving tree, it was in southeastern Travis, right along the Colorado River. And I remember Jay and I driving by it going, is that an elderberry tree? When we would see the blossoms in the spring. And sure enough, we pulled over one day and I got so many chiggers that day. I went out and I just started trimming because it was after we saw that the flowers that we determined it was elderberry, we went down there and we harvested a whole bunch of berries. And I go by every year and it's still just as lush as it ever was. So the berry is the seed and the seed is the berry, right? This is Sambucus canadensis, which is the native elderberry. Now these tend to want a lot of water. That's why growing next to the Colorado River is not unheard of. But this is, of course, an excellent antiviral immune support herb. And I think I probably made, I don't know, dozens of bottles of elderberry syrup. I brought one here just to show. There's lots of formulas out there. I'm going to throw some of these elderberries here in, and the syrup, I'm not going to put them directly into my honey formula because elderberry needs to be cooked before it is used. I can also share recipes on that. There's several variations. I like to add holy basil. I like to add echinacea, cinnamon and elderberry are a fine combination. You just boil the water and strain and add the honey and then you've got your elderberry syrup. But like I said, you do want to cook those first. Now there is a variety of elderberry called Peruvian elderberry, and it's just Sambucus peruviana, which is reported to be edible off the vine. Now I always cautiously say that because I don't want to tell anyone to go out and eat elderberries because they say it's toxic. But the Peruvian elderberry is reported to be one that is safe. But don't take my word for it. Do your research, of course. Okay, let's see where we are here. All right, that brings me to this guy, which I talked just briefly about, which is Echinacea. I have an Echinacea plant. This is one that I stole from the nursery to show you how it is going to seed, but you can kind of see the cone head here. Now what I'm going to be doing is eventually just lopping these off and putting them in a paper bag to let some of those seeds drop. And then this will all die back. And these plants, this plant is probably 2 or 3 years old. So when if you're interested in harvesting Echinacea root, you do want your plant to be at least 2 years old. They say 3 years old. So I went ahead and uprooted one that I'm going to use for medicine, just to kind of show you if you've never seen one before. This is Echinacea root. This is a very healthy root system, not a super large root, but the one thing about harvesting Echinacea is that you can actually replant it after you take some of that root off. So I'm actually probably going to use the whole thing. But if I were to want to replant this one, I would just clip a little piece off, dry it in my dehydrator, and then add it to my formula. And you can use fresh also. It's just depends on your preference. So there's the Echinacea. And we don't usually grow Echinacea throughout the winter. So that's something we will let go to seed, and we'll keep those seeds and store those seeds. There's not a whole lot of variation between picking your seeds and storing your seeds, but there is a lot of variation when it comes to germination. So for instance, you may find it really hard to find a native milkweed, which we all love for our butterfly population or pollinators. One of the things that we killed thousands of milkweed over the years. A lot of people come to us to ask about getting milkweed, excuse me, because it's so hard to find. And a lot of that is because stems from the fact that it is hard to grow, and that requires a cold stratification, which is just a refrigeration process. So that's something you want to think about if you're out wild harvest or wild crafting milkweed pods, and you're like, oh, I'll just put this in a paper towel and spray it with some water. It's probably not going to work for you. So if you've ever really wanted to grow your own Asclepias asperula or any other native milkweeds, look up cold stratification, because that is something that you're going to want to remember if you want to grow those from seed. Let's see here. What other guys? I also brought, this one is Monarda. There it is, punctata, or spotted bee balm. And none of this is going to seed right now, but I did want to mention it as an awesome plant for cold remedies. So again, everything I've showed you is stuff that we've been growing throughout the summer and spring. We're either going to collect the seeds or we're going to harvest it all, and we're going to get really, really healthy, right? So I could put some of the dried Monarda flower into my formula that we've got going. That's another thing. And I brought along this honey just to show you, just any old organic. Of course, you probably want a local honey so you get all those natural pollens and whatnot. So eventually we're going to take, I'm going to add more herbs to this, but just to show you, you're just going to take that honey and you're just going to, so eventually we're going to cover this whole jar with honey. I don't have time to do that, and I don't have the muscle strength to do it either, because wow, I'm weak. Okay, so we're gonna pour all that honey in there, and then we're just gonna cover that up with its lid. And I just wanted to note really quickly that for those of you that like to make your own formulas, I always put a barrier between my lid and my jar to prevent oxidation, because what happens is when the alcohol and the herbs start doing their thing, you usually end up getting a really black and yucky lid. So if you just put a piece of plastic there or a piece of parchment paper, you can not only reuse your lid, but you're not going to get any of that nastiness in there. So this is just the motherwort that I've got tincturizing. It's been tincturizing for almost a year because I am lazy. But I assume it's going to be nice and potent when I get that out and use it. Another plant that I grabbed from the garden that is going to seed is this lovely one. This is a blue giant hyssop. Agastache. What's the botanical? Ooh, can I even say that? Funiculum. So this is a really yummy licoricey smelling plant. And if you're going to collect the seeds on this, you're going to wait for this flower to get a little more dry. And then I would just probably lock the tops off. And what I like to do is just stick it in a paper bag. So let's pretend like I cut this plant off, stick it in a paper bag, hang it upside down, and it will catch all those seeds in there. But you do want to wait until you're starting to see the dryness. I did bring a plant to kind of show the difference. This is a heal-all, Prunella vulgaris. Now, as you can see, some of these flowers are still pretty green. But we've got this one here, which is exciting, is nice and crispy, and that's where the little seeds are going to come out of. So I will be going through and I will be taking off just the brown ones, putting them in my paper bag, and then adding, this is just a little 4-inch guy. But I do have a sprawling bed of these that I can go ahead and collect the seeds from those, plant those again in the spring. Another one I've got here, which I had to show you, is ashwagandha. We grow a lot of ashwagandha. It is also an awesome adaptogen herb. You might know about adaptogenic herbs. Basically, our body knows what to do with adaptogenic herbs, and that's what makes them so brilliant. But you can see these little seed pods in here. I think there was just one seed inside. I pulled one out earlier. One seed. I lost the seed. Oh, nope. Anyway, oh, no, there it is. Come here. Bear with me. Sorry. I'm in a tiny closet, by the way. I don't have really good internet where I live out in Manor, so I had to borrow my daughter's little studio. Not a lot of elbow room in here. So I'm going to pop one of these off and show you. Remove the sheath of the, and there it is inside there. A little shiny ashwagandha seed. Now ashwagandha, I think a lot of times people tend to grow this in a pot. I think it's native to Asia and Africa. So this is something you want to grow in your greenhouse. Oh, there's a really nice looking seed right there. In a greenhouse or something that you want to bring inside if you want to winter it. It's going to die back. There it is. There it is. Ashwagandha seed. I brought some other cool stuff that I went around the greenhouse last night and I was just like, what can I show? I've got guava, and those are something you can grow here. We grow a lot of tropical fruits. This is yummy, yummy. I'm gonna go ahead and eat that. But the seeds, you consume the seeds, or you can dry those out. You can see there. The delicious guava we have growing. And also, because our crops were so abundant last year and this year of peppers, where'd it go? I wonder if I left some of my plants somewhere else. Oh, no, here they are. There's the motherwort, or the elderberry I was talking about. Couldn't find this one earlier. This is just one of thousands of cuttings we took off of one tree. So very easy to propagate. Very overwinters here in Central Texas. Elderberry, we talked about it. I skipped around, coming back to that one. And here is just a little Shishito Pepper plant. But as you can see in this 1 gallon pot, it is just bursting with peppers. I love sending these out to customers because when I pick up a pepper plant from the nursery, I usually just see leaves, right? Wouldn't you love to just have it all full of peppers already when you get it? That's one of them. And the thing about Shishitos, they're so easy to grow. They're crunchy, chock full of seeds, which are easy to come out. I mean, of course I eat the seeds, but easy to pop those out. What I do and what Erin, our assistant grower, does is she'll take all the peppers once the peppers are ready to, and take out the seeds and we'll use them for next year. So those just get easily dried. But we had so much last year that this is a Tabasco, which is a sun-facing pepper, as you can see, nice and erect. Look at all those pretty Tabasco peppers. We have lots of these right now. We're still actually selling peppers because we still have a little bit of heat. So if you want a pepper bumper crop, you might want to scoop some from us because they're just loaded with peppers right now. But last year I had 7 pot, which is a really spicy pepper. I had Tabasco. I made fermented hot sauce with my peppers last year. So that's also something. I feel like I've been talking and I'm ready to maybe move on from talking and maybe answer some questions. But before I do, a book I'd really like to suggest for some of the newest information on herbal antivirals is the book Herbal Antivirals. That's what it's called. Second edition. It's by Stephen Herod Buhner. There's some great information on emerging viruses and mutations and the herbs being closely studied to combat these viruses, providing immune support for our bodies. So since we have a lot of interesting new things going on in the world right now, it's really good to brush up on what plants are available to us, because this is a really important time to not only be growing our own food, but to be saving our seeds and to pass that on to our friends and our family and our community. So with that, I think I will bring up my little sheet of paper here, which basically just explains what Lone Star Nursery does. That's our website, lundstar.nursery.com. And like Aline said, we will deliver straight to your door for free. Just order up $30 worth of plants or get together with some friends, order up some plants, and we will bring them right to you. And we've got a little welcome code here. So 15% off your first purchase with welcome 15. If you want any of these recipes or have any questions for me, you can email me at hello, HELLO, at lonestarnursery.com. And with that, I'll hand it over to Aline.
Thank you so much, Flint. That was fascinating. We love it. We
Out of
love
breath.
it. Well, I let you talk a little longer because everybody was so interested that we had a minimum of side comments and questions. You were answering all of our questions before we could even ask them. So that,
Well, not realize that an hour had gone by.
well, not quite an hour, about 45 minutes or 50 minutes.
Good.
But in any case, let me go through the chats here and kind of look and see what we have. The
Okay.
first one was my question. When you were putting all of the same different herbs in the same honey jar, I was asking, is it better to have individual jars of herb honey with a single flavor than to mix them all together? Is there any difference in that?
That's a really great question, especially if you are sharing them with other people and they have preferences. Now, one thing I was going to mention is that, like I said, I'm not going to throw an echinacea root in here because that would just take over everything. So I'm going to have my echinacea in its own jar that I can add. So it is really good to have all of the separate ones. But, you know, sometimes for ease of operations or for experimenting, it's good to just, and this is actually probably a complex formula because I've done this so many times that I know what I'm going to mix in. But I would absolutely say a hibiscus honey on its own would be amazing. A sage honey on its own would be amazing. But they all have different properties that put together. I'm going to eventually put them together. So yes, to answer your question, yes and no.
Oh, I understand. Also, you didn't mention the actual recipe for the honey blend. I'm assuming you have that available on your website. Okay.
Yes.
Also,
Not on the website, but because mostly the website just caters to live plants and soils and garden supplies. My end of it is kind of on a small scale, so it would just be a matter of contacting me.
okay. Also, we had a recent comment here, Autumn, who also is into big herbal medicinals and pleasure things with herbs. She says she loves making fresh ginger honey. Do you grow any ginger by any chance?
We do grow ginger. We've grown some ornamental ginger and we've grown your medicinal ginger. We have a wild ginger that we're propagating right now. Should be hopefully available this fall because I do know a lot of people like to make fire cider, which is one of my favorites, and you use ginger, horseradish, and different things for that. So we also grow turmeric. Just about anything that you'd be like, where can I get this? Oh, and Lone Star Nursery has it because we're awesome.
Thank you. Someone just commented, and it's not me, it might be from our president. Can you send us some of the recipes through email or whatever so we can share them and put them in our newsletter or whatever?
Yeah, maybe that would be the best way to do it. I could just email you and you can just post them at your leisure.
That would be great. Also, one of our members asks if you have milkweed plants. I thought you said maybe you did, but I could be wrong.
We do. I'm actually getting on the website right now to see if we have. Now it's kind of something that we do it in the spring and we do it in the late summer. Mostly you're going to want your milkweed plants in the ground already, but a lot of people are coming into us and saying, "Oh, my monarchs are just eating everything," and it's one of the things that you want to do if you're going to plant milkweed is also plant, it's a perfect time for fennel, dill, things that the pollinators want to eat. And I'm looking right now, we sell several varieties of milkweed, including the native. And I think right now we have one available. Nope, sold out, very popular. And I don't think we're going to be growing it again until the spring, but we will always and forever grow milkweed.
Thank you. Let's see, other comments here. Someone asked what was the type of hibiscus plant that you showed us?
That was the Hibiscus Sabdarifa, Sabdariffa, or easier to remember is Roselle.
Okay,
Roselle.
Roselle or Sabdarifa. Someone commented that your sag paneer using, what was it that you used in that?
The Hibiscus Sabdarifa.
Hibiscus. Yes, it sounds amazing. And so I'm sure we're going to be trying to get a recipe and try that.
Yes.
Judith Kraft also mentioned that you said, she answered for you, it's Hibiscus Sabdarifa, also known as tea hibiscus, sold as tea hibiscus. Someone also asked that Lucinda, one of our members, had introduced her to holy basil, and she loves it, of course. Thank you for your presentation. Here's another question from me. I have a lot of questions, evidently. Is it necessary to allow the basil seeds, the holy basil seeds, or any basil seeds for that matter, to turn brown on the plant stalk, or can I harvest the green blossoms, or will they turn brown if you just clip them and dry them?
Well, unlike a tomato that you can, sometimes ripen off the vine, I definitely recommend that you keep the seed on the plant and let it dry first. I don't know exactly the science behind it, but as far as I have always, and from what Jay, my husband, has always said, you've got to wait until that seed is ready. You can't just take it off. Now, some seeds are different. It's definitely an excellent question, but I'd say overall, because when in nature, when a seed decides that it's going to jump ship and plant itself in the ground, it's only going to do so and be viable once it's a little bit dry, because you want the shape, depending on the seed. I mean, there are lots of different seeds that get carried by animals, seeds that get carried by birds. But with the basil, I'd say you'd want to let it dry. But I could be wrong. I am not an expert. I am a student. Forever.
You all are. Okay, here's another one. Danielle Mundell made a comment. She said, the other holy basil is purple, Oxymum sanctum or Krishna Tulsi. A lot of our people in India call it Tulsi. And she bought them from you, from Lone Star Nursery.
Right, we have the Krishna is purple, and the Vana is the one I brought, and I just can't remember the third one.
Rama.
Oh, well.
She mentions Rama. Is that?
This is the Rama. Yeah.
Oh, okay, there was Vana, Rama, and Krishna, evidently.
Yeah. Right.
There must be a holy trinity in
Yes.
Indian religion as well. Okay, Danielle also asked, how long do you ferment your peppers for? I left mine for a month and it seemed too long. Also, do you put any of the fermentation liquid into the blender or just the peppers?
I recently bought some of those fermentation locks, and I didn't bring one, but I don't think that there is actually a super huge limit on, but a month is not, especially if you're fermenting. I don't think a month is a problem. Now it's going to become a problem if your fermentation lock starts to get rusty, then you've had it in there. And yes, the answer is yes, definitely use the fermentation liquid. What I found is in making these is they do tend to settle. So one thing you can do is you can add some type of like agar or something that's going to help emulsify it and keep it solid. But if you get if you do tend to make it and it settles, just shake it up. That's the only thing that you have to worry about. I've actually added mustard to keep mine from coagulating. So,
well, I know I come from Avery Island area where they make Tabasco originally and have made it for 100 and something years now. And those oak barrels that they age it for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it is extremely potent. You probably don't have to age ours for 3 years. Also, I have grown the Tabasco peppers, but I have pickled the green ones in a plain vinegar water mixture. This is the same stuff you buy at the grocery store, pepper vinegar with green Tabasco peppers in it. And it's delicious to serve on red beans and rice or smothered okra, whatever you want to put it on. It's a different kind of flavor, but just delicious as well. Okay, let me say, someone asked, what was the name of that book again? I'm not sure what book you mentioned.
The book that I mentioned is just called, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I got it right. Herbal Antivirals, 2nd edition. Get the 2nd edition because it actually has chapters on coronavirus and things that are more, fresh on the minds of people who are looking for herbal support in all the new illnesses.
Okay, we're coming toward the end here. Just have a couple more comments. Hibiscus Sabdarifa is so yummy with peppermint or as a mimosa syrup. That's from Autumn. And then Rima asks, is the hibiscus empty pod what you boil? The empty seed pod for hibiscus, is that what you're boiling?
Nope, it is actually the calyx of the plant, which these are all dried, but it's a lot you can do them all dried. I collected so many so this is the seed pod. This is the calyx, that red part. That's going to be the part that you make your tea out of, just the red calyx.
Could you back up just a little bit because it blurs when you get too close? There, that's a good, thank you. Okay. What else? Let me see. I think we're getting to the end here. Autumn also mentions that she has about 10 oxymum sanctums. The breeze really makes the yard smell divine, and it's also really good with lemon verbena in a smoothie.
Nice.
I think we're going to stop there. We have shared. Thank you for sharing so much with us. And I'm going to stop our recording now because Karen, our president, has some announcements to make, I think, and then we'll end our meeting. Thank you again, Flint. Yay. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Let me see. I want to make sure I stop recording. Or you want to stop recording?